Whether you're a tank, DPS, or support, I'm sure you have noticed that Genji has become absolutely dominant in competitive Overwatch. In order to combat this, we're going to run down one unique tip for every hero in order to shut the cybernetic ninja right down. Go check out GameLeap.com if you want to master Genji or learn how to shut him down. We have in-depth advanced VOD reviews and we're constantly updating with advanced guides, so do yourself a favor and go check it out. Now, kicking off with the first section, we have to talk about tanks. Now I'm going to do this alphabetically, and the first tank we're going to kick it off with is D.Va. Now the biggest mistake that D.Va players make is they really let Genjis feed off of them. I mean, actually farm D.Vas because of her huge hitbox. You need to make sure to save a little bit of DM to eat Genji reflex, such as things like reflected fire strikes. Also keep in mind that you can boop a Genji when he goes in with the dash or a blade, or even D.Va bomb your team in response to a nano blade. Now moving on to the next tank that we have for you is Orisa. Now you need to be extremely careful about getting your ult reflected, as it could be easily converted into Genji dashing into it and basically getting a whole bunch of animation cancels and killing your whole team. Also, noticing when he doesn't have dash is important, as a pull downwards can keep him in place long enough to either mess up a blade or stop him from retreating. Now the next tank on the list is Reinhardt, and you just need to, plain and simple, stop fire striking a Genji and getting it reflected. Keep in mind that your fire strike comes online 2 seconds before Genji's reflect, so you can use your first fire strike to bait its reflect, and then you can throw the second one straight in right off of cooldown. Now the next tank that we have for you on the list is Roadhog. Keep in mind that if you're Roadhog, Genji can easily farm you and get his entire blade off of you very easily. You should try to bait reflect with a melee, because the melee animation looks very similar to the start animation of a hook. It is also possible to hook Genjis at the apex when they dash up for nano, or just whole hog them away while they're blading. Make sure that you don't whole hog yourself, look to the ground or look behind you and then flip back to the Genji once his reflect is cancelled or over. Now moving on to the next tank on the list, we have Sigma. Now an important thing to keep in mind when you're playing Sigma is that a Genji can still dash melee burst you even when you're using your kinetic grasp. This means that unlike against a lot of characters that rely on range damage like Hanzo or McCree, you can't rely on the kinetic grasp to save you if you're on the front line and already weak up against a Genji. On top of this, hitting an accretion or your rock onto a Genji is absolutely vital if he's coming in on you or some of your supports. Lastly, if he commits to the second dash that he gets when he nano blades, the one he gets after he activates the blade, you can ult him. But keep in mind, if his target is you, often he will kill you before your ultimate goes off and it will cancel it. And if he still has a second dash or gets it instantly, he will easily be able to dash out of it. So definitely keep both those things in mind when trying to ult a Genji nano blade. Now the next tank that we have for you on the list is Winston. Now as Winston, the most important thing that you need to do is close the gap on Genji without using your lunge through positioning. You want to position as close as possible to the Genji, not investing your lunge at all. You also want to plant your bubble when dueling a Genji and jiggle in and out of it, because not only does it block some amount of heals to the Genji from their allies, but it makes it a lot harder for a Genji to hit 3x shurikens in the head. Good Genjis will be able to hit 3x shurikens in the head, 3x shurikens in the head, and actually win a matchup against a Winston who is just trying to face him straight up. Lastly, the reason you saved your lunge in the first place is if you can get a Genji to retreat with dash, or if you see a Genji try to retreat to his team or to some mega or anything like that with his dash, you can use your lunge to chase after him and confirm the kill. Now the next character we have on the list is Wrecking Ball. Now this is a weird matchup. You basically just ignore each other. The only tip I could give you is that you can actually use your mines on your supports or squishy to stop a blade in a pinch. Now the last take that we have for you on the list is Zarya. You can always grab a nano Genji and it will be value added, especially if you can kill the Genji, because they invested 2 ultimates and you only used 1 and you end up a member on your team. Now timing is key here, as too late and you let the Genji get multiple kills before the grab goes off. I would also highly suggest making sure that you grab the floor or a wall so that you don't get it reflected, because that is the worst case scenario. Now for the next section, we have the DPS, and the first character is Ashe. Now if you're playing Ashe and you let a Genji sneak up on you, you're gonna die. If you waste Coach Gun and he still has dash, you're gonna die. You need a position with your range in mind, and always try to keep a range further than his dash range of 15 meters, saving your Coach Gun for when he actually engages you, so you have an out and a way to distance from him. But you also need to try to put as much damage into him as possible before he ends up right on top of you. Now for Bastion, the one thing that you cannot do is you cannot shoot him while he's reflecting. reflecting, which can be difficult, especially now with Genjis being able to cancel their reflect whenever they want. Track his movements and try to bait it out early if you can. Genjis will often try to jump right in front of you and get you to kill yourself basically with that reflect. This, however, is a really bad matchup, and there's only so much you could do. A lot of the counterplay in this matchup requires your healer, specifically your Baptiste, to be very on point with his immortality field. Now moving on to the next character in the DPS category is Doomfist. Now as Doomfist, you actually soft counter Genji. You can punch his reflect to cancel it. You can easily punch Genjis against the wall. It's also very easy to punch a Genji if you're lurking on top of a building and he likes to double jump and wall climb near buildings. You can drop right on top of him and punch him into a wall fairly simply if you practiced. Now, underrated thing that Doomfist can actually do is peel for allies who are fighting Genjis. You could go, for example, peel for an Ana that's in a duel with the Genji by just seismic slamming and uppercutting the Genji in a duel. If he's already weak, he'll take enough damage to get killed. At the very least, it will CC him around, making it hard for him to follow up on the squishy. Now, the next character we have for you on the list is Echo. Echo's beam can kill through reflect, and you have your glide to chase him in a similar way like Monkey can. So what you want to do is wait for him to get low or get him low, and then when he dashes away, you chase him with your glide and then you beam him to finish him off. However, the important thing is you still need to respect his lethality. If you fly too low, Genjis can still dash, right click you, and easily do 100 damage to you. Your wings are your hitboxes, and it's really easy for a Genji to get multiple shurikens into you if the Genji is any bit competent. Now, the next character we have to talk about is Genji, the Genji v Genji matchup. This is an interesting duel, but Genji is actually pretty good at punishing other Genjis. If you are waiting for him, you could easily do that dash right click burst if a Genji is too low. You need to always be tracking where the other Genji is and monitoring each other's cooldowns, of course. Now, the next character on the list is Hanzo. This is a very difficult matchup for you now that cancel reflect is a thing. At the highest level, in my opinion, it was about like a 45-55, a 45 being Hanzo percent chance of winning versus a 55, but now it is a way worse. You have to position really far away from a Genji, just like with the Ashe example, or try to hit a headshot while he's dashing in that fixed animation, which is incredibly difficult. Very hard matchup for you to win on Hanzo. Now moving on to the next character is Junkrat. Your mines can boop him and mess up his blade. You can also throw a trap near his support, and you might catch a blading Genji in the trap. Now, you can rip-tire his nano blade, which is a viable strategy, but keep in mind, a nano-bladed dash will do 100 damage, which will insta-kill the tire, so detonate it early and don't get too greedy trying to kill a Genji with your rip-tire. Now, the next character on the list is McCree. This is a hard matchup as well because of the new reflect changes. It's pretty hard for McCree to win, but what you need to be doing is instead of trying to bait out the flash, just throw it in a way that will get him regardless of whether or not he's reflecting or not. You can throw it above his head or below his feet, basically stunning him no matter what he's doing, and it's a lot easier than trying to predict his reflect. That is actually impossible to predict, especially if you have high ping or he has extremely low ping. Do not high noon ever, I mean period, if the enemy has a Genji and you don't know if the reflect is down or not. You're just gonna shoot yourself in the face. Even if you don't see the Genji, he's gonna just like sneak in there and reflect, and you're gonna kill yourself. Now, the next character on the list is Mei, and when you're playing Mei, you just pretty much can just walk at a Genji and freeze him even through his reflect. Mei is a pretty hard counter for Genji. Now, you want to force him to dash away so he doesn't get as much value, but be cognizant of the fact that he can burst you easily if you get down to 100 HP or less, so definitely keep track of your health total, and don't be afraid of investing your ice block if you're not getting the heals to get you out of that burst range. Now, the next character we have on the list is Pharah. Just make sure that you fly as high as possible and focus the tanks and other squishies, as a Genji can't really touch you if you're flying at max height. Use your concussion blast to mess up Genji's blades post-dash, and if he tries to blade you in the air for some reason, because he's a Genji god or a psycho, use your concussion blast to blast yourself outwards horizontally, and then as you start to fall, use your jets to change you vertically upward. If you change directions multiple times, it's incredibly difficult. In fact, it's impossible for a Genji to chase you with one single dash because it only goes in one direction, of course. Now, the next character on the list is Reaper. While Reaper doesn't necessarily struggle with Genji, he does have a fat head hitbox. So just like with the Mei example, you need to be cognizant of your health total. You can often ignore a Genji and do your own thing. However, you definitely need to be tracking a Genji's reflect if you want to go in for a Death Blossom, because one single Genji, his reflect and his burst can shut down your ultimate altogether. Now, the next character on the list list is Soldier. Now, you can Nano Visor in response to a Nano Blade and shut him down as long as you're far enough away. The biggest thing you need to learn, however, though, when you're playing Soldier is spacing, just like with the Ashe. If a Genji uses dash to engage, you just need to run right away and gain distance. Do not stop until you're safe, because if you automatically take shurikens plus the dash, even if you throw down your heal station, if the Genji doesn't miss his shurikens, he's just gonna right click, kill you instantly. So it's all about getting that distance and making sure that you make that distance as big as possible and get that peel and become safe. Now, the next character on the list is Sombra. Now, Sombra has a lot of counterplay to Genji. You can EMP a Genji when he gets nanoed. You can wait near a support to hack a Genji, play on the high ground to hack him as he goes in with a Nano Blade or anything like that, kind of stranding him without any dashes. It is pretty hard for a Genji to duel you on a hacked Mega, but keep in mind that it's not impossible if he has his dash and he hits all of his shots. Now, the next character on the list is Symmetra. Now, the biggest thing I can tell you is that turrets are a nightmare for Genji. You could set turrets up near your supports, multiple ones of them, and if a Genji tries to dash in on a support, it will not only slow him, but most likely will just kill him altogether. And that can be incredibly annoying, because especially if the turrets are in a place where Genji can't actually go clear them out, it is incredibly frustrating, and Genji basically just has to avoid that entire area. Now, the next character on the list is Torb. Now, in a similar way, what you want to be doing on Torb is up against a really good Genji, you could be placing your turret in a place that it cannot be poked from behind the enemy's front line. So a Genji can't be behind his Reinhardt and poke down the turret. But if an enemy dives into your back line, the turret will see him. So a Genji basically has to be behind your front line in order to kill your turret, which is incredibly difficult for him. And if he wants to make a giant flank around, he usually has to invest health or his reflect in order to kill the turret. So that is the best suggestion I would have for you on Torb. Now, the next character on the list is Tracer. Now, Genji can burst a Tracer far easier than before. I'm sure you felt it, you Tracer mains, how good Genjis can just basically kill you out of nowhere. Now, this is definitely a skill-based matchup, and it always has been, but before, a slightly worse Tracer could still beat a better Genji. What I'm saying is Tracer had a leg up in the matchup, but now it's closer to 50-50. The important thing about this matchup is your individual skill, of course, your lethality, and just tracking the enemy Genji's abilities. You don't want to be clipping yourself in the head when he reflects. You definitely don't want to get into that lethal zone where he can one-tap you, but make sure that you are always ready to chase down a Genji. If he's retreating from a fight, trying to get a Mega, you're one of the few characters that can actually route all the way over to him and shut him down as he's retreating. Now, the last character in the DPS category is Widowmaker. And as Widowmaker, you can never let a Genji route to you without you knowing. You can't even let him come close to you without you knowing. You need to be playing as far away from Genji as possible, and if you let him engage you without using your dash, you are definitely gonna die no matter what. You can often mess up a blade though. If you are playing on the high ground, you drop down from the high ground as he starts the blade, and then as he follows you, you grapple back up. Now, if he chases you, he's gonna waste a lot of his blade time, and he probably will kill you, but at least it will waste his blade time. And if he doesn't chase you, you're gonna live, which is always great, and that's a win in your book if you survive against a Genji blade. Now, moving on to the next character section of the list, we got supports. Now, kicking off with number 1, we have Ana. Now, fighting Genjis as Ana is harder than ever. Honestly, the best time to sleep a Genji is either when he blades during the dash up animation, which is an incredibly hard sleep to hit, but is one of the few times that you can actually hit a sleep dart on him, or during a dash animation when a Genji is dashing at you. Now, unfortunately, a great Genji can use his reflect to outplay pretty much any sleep that you throw at a Genji, but the majority of Genjis won't be able to do this. Of course, at the highest levels, there's a lot more tips I could give you, but for the vast majority of players, like 99%, keep these things in mind. Now, the next character I have to talk about is Baptiste. Immortality Field needs to be sandbagged until a Genji Nano Blades, as it can greatly mess up and completely counter a Nano Blade if timed correctly. Also, please stop jumping for no reason. A Genji can line up shurikens as you're flying up in the air and falling, and he can set up a dash combo as you hit the ground where he throws shurikens at the floor and dashes into you. Do not do this because it just allows him to easily pick you off. Lastly, use your amplification matrix right after you've seen a Genji use reflect. Do not throw your amplification matrix out. Your Reinhardt fire strikes through it, it gets reflected, and then it kills like 3 members of your team. You should either 1, be coordinating, or 2, just using it right after a Genji already invested reflect. And then the next character on the list is actually Brig. Now, Brig is great versus Genji, of course, because of all the CC, plus her Inspire, her armor, and her whips. That being said, often the problem with playing Brig is that you will have no defensive ult for Nanoblade because you're playing a primary healer instead of a Zen or a Lucio with the Brig. Now, the reason that is important to know is that you need to be hitting a whip on him every time he dashes up for a Nanoblade, and a stun on him as he engages is vital, or else the Nanoblade will be a team wipe every single time. Don't forget you could stun him out of Reflect, of course. Now, the next character on the list is Lucio. Beat can counter Nanoblades, but be very cautious about a Genji's positioning when you beat, especially if you are up on a wall. A good Genji, if you beat from the high ground and you take a long time to actually touch the ground, a good Genji will dash into you and slash you, or slash dash you and one-shot you, kill you mid-beat, which is the absolute worst case scenario because not only do you lose the fight, but you lose your beat as well. Now, next up, it's important for you to peel often when you're playing Lucio. Peel for your DPS and your other support when Genji is dashing them. Keep in mind that Genji is extremely lethal, and he probably has a positive matchup against almost every single DPS right now. So if you can make those matchups 2v1s, it will mean a lot more likely chance of actually shutting the Genji down. Now, the next character on the list is actually Mercy. Do not super jump for no reason. I see this incredibly often where a Mercy just super jumps because she can. But if you super jump and there's a high ground near you, or there's a Genji kind of near you in some way, he could just hit you really easily with his alternate fire. It is very similar to like Baptiste jumping up in the air. It's really easy to line up shurikens on a Mercy when she's floating like that. Now, the next biggest mistake I had to talk about with Mercy is Mercies will often think it's super safe if they're like at half health or something and their Rein puts a shield up and they start rezzing someone behind the Reinhardt shield. Well, the thing about Genji is Genji can just dash right through that shield and burst you down really easily, get his dash back, and dash right out. So definitely keep that in mind. Just because you're behind a shield does not mean you're safe to res up against a good Genji. Now, the next character on the list is Moira. Now, as Moira, at least your primary damage can't be reflected, so you can just suck him off and kill him, of course. Now, the biggest mistake that Moira players make is they overuse kill orbs too much when they shouldn't really be doing it at all. First off, if a Genji reflects your damage orbs, he can get tons of free ult charge, and if he gets any enemies low, it can turn into a flurry of one kill after the next, using the orb to help him get resets. What is most important about Moira is actually keeping your team topped up, never in that lethal combo zone, trying to keep all your squishies up to the max HP. Don't let your squishy just stay at like 110 for too long, because if that happens, a Genji will just come in and burst him out of nowhere, and you won't have enough time to heal, and then you're just going to lose the team fight because you let that happen. Now, as a last tip for Moira, I know it can be appealing sometimes to want to Wraith into a Genji if he's low. He's running away. You want to chase after him. But if a Genji has a dash, he can turn the tables on you if you do not have your fade. So definitely keep that in mind. A lot of the worst Genjis won't be able to do this, but some of the better Genjis will be able to turn the tables. Even if they're only at 30 or 40 HP, they can still burst you down out of nowhere if you ever become a little bit too greedy. Now, the last character on the list that we have for you is Zen. And the biggest tip I have for you on Zen is you are Genji food GG. No, JK, but for real though, try to keep a Discord on him so he's forced to use his abilities like Reflect and Dash to get out of danger. He's forced to play more passively so he can't build as much ult charge. Never, ever, ever be within dash range, that 15 meters. You cannot be within dash range against a Genji. If a Genji times it right, he can just actually one-tap you as Zen, so definitely keep that in mind. And then often, lastly, if the enemy is nano blading, it is often better to not transfer against the Genji because he can kill a lot of squishies through your Transcendence with slash dash slash if he has that nano boost, so definitely keep that in mind, and most likely save your trans for something like a grab instead. If you want to make sure that you never lose up against the Genji again, go check out GameLeap.com and you will have everything you need in order to thrive in this competitive environment going forward. Anyways, that's all we got. See you next time.